Oh boy, Tristan, you've got a pretty big opportunity today here, folks, because the Edmonton Oilers are playing off against the Colorado Avalanche. But this video is not going to be about the Oilers and the Avs. Oh no. Today, we're talking about Tristan Jarry and the drama surrounding him and his new hockey team. Ladies and gentlemen, ever since being acquired by the Oilers, it has not been a good run for Tristan Jarry. He had a .909 save percentage in 14 games with the Pittsburgh Penguins, but with Edmonton, he's rocking an .862 and a .396 goals against average. That's terrible. That absolutely sucks. That's worse than Stu Skinner, the best goalie in Edmonton. Isn't one of the top guys that was supposed to be a top guy. It's Connor Ingram, with his .892 save percentage in 18 games played. It's absolutely ridiculous, but the Oilers traded away Stu Skinner to get a guy who's significantly worse. And with that established, we now have ourselves some reports going on out of Bob Stouffer, out of Elliot Friedman, that dive into some of the drama surrounding Jarry and his new hockey team. Take a look at this post made 2 days ago on the Edmonton Oilers subreddit. Bob Stouffer hints at a rift between Jarry and the core group. Here's the quote from the broadcast. "There's some extra things that have me quite concerned with Tristan," Stouffer said on Oilers Now on Friday. "I can read between the lines of what was going on in the ice yesterday in practice. There seemed to be some expletives flying. I didn't like that." Jarry, when the Oilers lost 7-3 to Minnesota, talked about how the team is playing defensively in front of him. "I watched him yesterday in practice, and he was getting beat by pucks in practice. And finally, one of the leaders, you could see him say, 'You've got to push it more.' And it's both goalies. And that's concerning." Now, that's not very direct, but it does hint that there can, or possibly already is, some issues with the way Tristan Jarry is handling the relationships with his new hockey team. The comments on this thread are not positive. "This season is a mess. Part of me hopes we miss the playoffs so Bowman and Jackson get the axe, but then I think, goodness, that won't even happen." Yeah, it's pretty obvious. Jarry calls out the team almost immediately when he gets here. He then gets called out by Draisaitl and our coach at different points. I'm pretty sure Knob has called him out twice. Just a brutal move. Campbell 2.0 right here. Even when Skinner had a bad game and the media was trying to get him called out, the players did everything to keep their yaps shut. How long until this core group realizes they're the common denominator in all of this? Whether it's Jarry, Ingram, Skinner, or Campbell, there needs to be a moment of introspection with the group. I'm starting to think one of the reasons they like Pickard is because he didn't have the tenure or job security to really call out anybody. This has been obvious since the Olympic return, especially with Jarry's programmed responses when interviewed after losses. "It's all my fault, I've got to be better." The shame of it is that he delivered the right message. It just shouldn't have been delivered by a player who hasn't been here long enough to unpack or to the press. I can't imagine what it's like for any of these goalies to be playing behind this team, watching all three forwards break out of the zone hoping for a breakaway pass before we even have possession, clearing passes straight up the middle without an Oiler in sight, zero ability to push the puck out of the D-zone, nothing simple, everything stupid. And the only time anyone goes near the net, it's not to clear the other team out, it's to stand still and screen their own goalie. I hated Mike Smith, but I'm pretty sure he would have read them in with an extra helping of profanity, and maybe someone would have listened. With this group, none shall speak the holy words of truth, lest they make certain people mad. Making people mad is a pretty interesting way to talk about it. However, despite the fact that Stouffer did mention this element of the Oilers' goaltender and his team, He did also say this earlier yesterday. It's been a season of ups and downs for the Oilers, but for anyone to suggest that the players don't have each other's backs would be ridiculous. The best players push each other on and off the ice each and every day. Great opportunity ahead of this group right now. Going back over to the Jarry conversation, this is what was talked about by Elliotte Friedman on 32 Thoughts. There's a lot of talk out there about Jarry getting into it in practice with some of his teammates. This tweet by Edmonton Oilerlytics says, is Knob losing the room? Is Jarry playing well enough to getting into fights with his teammates? At this point, I'd rather Pickard G2 and Ingram G1. Puck Empire responded saying this has been a disaster. I get Edmonton fans want to salvage the fact that they took on this contract, but Jarry has always had a terrible attitude and isn't even a top 25 goalie in the league. Regardless of how poor the defense have been, he ain't the guy. Ingram, number 1 goalie season. I don't care if he's a goalie, and I don't care if he's got a prickly attitude. That said, I do think Ingram has a better chance of settling into a number 1 spot in a playoff run. Now, for what it's worth, despite the fact that Bob Stouffer went out there and spoke about this Jarry thing, despite the fact that Elliotte Friedman said there's talk about Jarry getting into it with practice with his teammates, you did have Frank Saravalli saying on Oilers Now 2 days ago that the whole Oilers-Jarry situation is being blown out of proportion. There was no altercation, according to him. Now, top reply here says, Bob and Elliotte know what's up. Frank is washed. Bob said too now. No altercation. Of course, the GM is going to downplay it. And that, of course, is a pretty interesting element about it too. Bob Stouffer maybe initially talking about it and then walking it back, but Elliotte Friedman also having his comments saying that, yeah, maybe Jarry did get into it in practice with some of his teammates. It doesn't bode well for any Oilers fan who believes that they got their new number 1 when that trade was made. It's just not the guy. He's not good enough. Sure, the Oilers' defense sucks, but Tristan Jarry had issues for years before this season, and then inevitably this season has made him even worse. .862 save percentage and 13 games played. Imagine this is the guy that the Oilers went out there and tried to put the goaltending's future into his hands. What a choice. What a bad choice. And what a tire fire situation in Edmonton on the back end. Not just with the goaltending, but with the defense as well. With all that said, you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about this Tristan Jarry teammate altercation situation? Is it as big of a deal as we are making it out to be? Is it worth talking about? Will everybody shut up when the Oilers defeat the Colorado Avalanche 5-0 today? Because they'll be back on their high horse and everything's going to look all fine and dandy after that. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign on, and bye.